I respect that they have a right to choose their lifestyle, but as a Bible reader,
Excuse me! I'm a Bible reader too!
I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we believe the Bible teaches is for a man and a woman who are married.
Jehovah's Witnesses released this video a while back titled Future Events That Will Require Courage. I covered parts of it when it came out, but I thought it'd be an interesting trip down memory lane to look at some of the wacky shit they talk about when they think the outside world isn't paying attention. This is a compilation video that starts off with an anti-LGBT message. The whole idea is they want their members to believe the end is coming any 5 minutes now, and they're going to be persecuted and physically attacked simply for being Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're trying to mentally prepare their members for that inevitable reality. Well, inevitable in their minds anyways. Let's see what they had to say for themselves. Let's get into it. As I said, this is a compilation video of a number of scenarios Jehovah's Witnesses believe will happen more and more frequently as Armageddon gets closer. Here's the framing device. There are a bunch of congregation leaders talking to each other about experiences their congregation members had recently. Not for nothing, but if you notice, they're all men. They don't believe women should have leadership roles under any circumstances. If you think Jehovah's Witnesses believe in equality, think again. This is a small deviation, but here's audio of governing body member Stephen Lett talking about equality and how he feels about it.
There's a lot of groups in today's world that would have our sisters believe to be in subjection to a man is belittling. It's demeaning. There's groups like Women's Lib. One brother called it Women's Lip, L-I-P instead of L-I-B, just change a letter there. See, there's groups like that say, don't let any man tell you what to do. Get out there and compete with men, including your husband. Don't let any man tell you, you're just as good or better than men. See, and that's the attitude they try to promote. But now if our sisters listen to that, what would happen? They'd lose their beautiful humility. They would lose that subjection to their husband.
Obviously, they don't think much about women's equality, but that's the least of our worries right now. They're a deeply destructive organization in a number of ways. This is just one of them. Anyways, the first clip they show in this series is about a woman being persecuted for thinking gay people are living in sin. Let's watch.
Matthew, how do things go with your group?
Very good. In fact, Sally's experience is one that stands out for me.
Hi.
Would you like to make a donation to the marathon?
No thank you.
It seems like nothing, but they're lining it up to make it look like this woman is constantly being persecuted simply by being around gay people. They don't really get into what cause this marathon is running for or whatever, but it's obvious in a minute that it's a gay pride type of event. This person is asked if she wanted to donate to a charity. Totally reasonable thing to ask. And she said no thank you. A totally reasonable response. I never donate to charities at cash registers like that. You never know where the money is actually gonna go. How much of it is going to a cause and how much is going to quote-unquote administrative fees. If I'm going to donate to a charity, and I have, I'll donate to something like the Trevor Project. Couldn't find a better organization than that, in my humble opinion. But Jehovah's Witnesses turned this innocent and innocuous question into a point of persecution. The whole world is working against you. They hate you. They're out to get you. If you aren't personally kissing a gay dude every day, then you're evil. That's what they want their members to think the world expects of them. For the record, you should be kissing your gay dude every day. If you aren't, then you're homophobic. If you don't have one, then you should find one, like Trump did with his African American.
Look at my African American over here.
Always keep a gay dude on tap in case you need him. That's in the gay handbook. Anyways, let's keep watching this poor persecuted Jehovah's Witness complain because people won't let her persecute other people without being criticized for it.
Shall I put it in the bag, or do you want to wear it now?
No thank you.
What's wrong, honey? You got something against them?
Well, no, I don't have anything against him personally.
This is a completely ridiculous situation, as if anybody would actually confront somebody over accepting a bracelet. But this is what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They own a media empire, and this media empire does nothing but pump out propaganda. Jehovah's Witnesses do, on occasion, find themselves in situations where they have to defend their hatred of the LGBT community. But that's never because they were just standing there innocently doing absolutely nothing except making a purchase at a cash register. It's because they need everybody around them to know what they believe about any given subject at all times. It's actually a religious mandate. If you don't make it known that you believe this or that, you're risking your eternal life. Governing body member Tony Morris explicitly says if you don't spread the word to people around you, God will consider you blood guilty, which is tantamount to murder. You didn't tell people what you believed, you lost the opportunity to bring people into the religion, they'll lose their lives in Armageddon, and it was all your fault. As an organization, Jehovah's Witnesses intentionally set out to reshape the personalities of the members through Pavlovian conditioning. They practice behavior modification through a system of rewards and punishments, which is a hallmark of a destructive cult. History has a billion examples of this type of thing. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses even have a name for the personality they program into their members. They call it the new personality, or the Christian personality. They call out to it all the time in their propaganda videos and literature. They released an anti-outsider video a couple months ago where they portray a girl joining the religion, and her mom notices the changes in her personality and gets concerned.
Jade, love, all this, I see it's made you a better person. Heaven knows I tried. But I miss bits of the old Jade. Bits? What bits? Where's the Jade that questioned everything?
They know exactly what bits. Anyways, the point is they program in new personalities, and part of that personality is to spread everything you believe to the people around you at any cost. You absolutely must tell people how you feel about issues, or you risk becoming blood guilty and not making it to heaven, which means they place themselves in these awkward situations by telling people they're opposed to gay rights or whatever else, when they weren't even asked. This video is completely unrealistic because if you're leaving people alone and minding your own goddamn business, nobody will care what you believe. They produce these situations for themselves by shoving their nose in where it doesn't belong and then crying about being persecuted when their nose is cut off. But that's kind of part of the plan too. Throughout these clips, you'll see a couple running themes. One, it's all about persecution. Make the members believe they're persecuted at any cost, because when people feel persecuted, they get radicalized. They'll do absolutely anything to alleviate the perceived persecution. And the other common thread you see running through these clips is control. They desperately want their people to listen to their every command, like a military. You'll see what I mean by that in a minute. When we left off with our poor, persecuted Jehovah's Witness, she was being called out by this mean lady for absolutely nothing, and she's being forced to tell everybody what she believes, as if Jehovah's Witnesses would ever need to be forced to talk about their beliefs. Let's keep watching.
Well, no, I don't have anything against him personally.
So what's the problem?
I respect that they have a right to choose their lifestyle, but as a Bible reader,
Excuse me. I'm a Bible reader too. I go to church, and our church is one of the biggest supporters for this marathon. So what are you trying to say?
Displaying courage now will help me display courage in the future. Well, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we believe the Bible teaches sex is for a man and a woman who are married.
Intolerant people.
So mistreated, so persecuted. Nothing about this situation is realistic. Setting aside the fact that she'd be desperate to tell people around her what she believed, the United States Constitution was built on one simple principle. Your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose. You can swing it anywhere you want except for at my face. When the police prevent you from swinging your fist at my face, it isn't a violation of your rights, it's a protection of mine. Your rights extend up to where mine begin and no further. Hate mongers have blurred the the line between people's rights since the dawn of time. When they persecute somebody for being gay and they're called out for it, they complain about cancel culture, completely ignoring the fact that they're the ones attacking other people's rights. They say they think gay people shouldn't exist in society. They say you should kick your gay children out of the home and excommunicate them permanently. And when they're criticized for that belief, they say you're violating their right to say whatever they want. Nobody said they aren't allowed to say what they want, but they aren't free from consequences. This doesn't just apply to Jehovah's Witnesses. You see this same pattern across the political and religious sphere. They can expect to be criticized for being hateful. If they don't like that, maybe they shouldn't be hateful. It's a time-tested tactic to get people out of trouble when they stick their foot in their mouth. When they face consequences for their egregious bigotry, they'll claim they're the victims. The next clip shows the elders sitting around discussing exactly what I mentioned a minute ago, interestingly enough. The mandate every Jehovah's Witness has to go out and spread their hateful nonsense. Check this out.
Do you recall a little over 10 years ago, we had the Kingdom News campaign, "The End of False Religion is Near." During our shepherding visit with Sherry Spencer, she admitted that something happened to her during that campaign.
As a public service, I'm sharing in an earthwide distribution of this important message. That's your free copy.
Interesting portrayal. Most people will just say not interested and move on with their lives. They'll shut the door and forget about it. A very small fraction of people will actually engage negatively. The majority of the time, it'll either be positive engagement or none at all. I was a Jehovah's Witness my whole life. I placed my first tract at a door when I was 2 years old. Baptized at 14, walked away at 18, and still believed it for years after that, till I was about 22. But this takes an interesting turn. Keep watching.
As a public service, I'm sharing in an earthwide distribution of this important message. That's your free copy.
Hey! What's this about? Are you trying to tell me that my religion is false and yours is true? Get off my property! If you come back again, I'm gonna set my dog on you! Nobody wants you here!
Like I said, it's very uncommon to come across somebody who's straight up aggressive like this, but it does happen. My brother had a gun pulled on him. I went door knocking with a circuit overseer one time. They're pretty high up in the organization. They move from congregation to congregation within a district over a 3-month period. Meet with elders, appoint new ones, delete old ones, talk to locals, that kind of thing. So I go door knocking with the circuit overseer. We walk to the door and knock, and next thing we know, we hear a garage door opening and barking. A dog comes running around the corner, and 7-year-old me and this 70-year-old man start running to the car. We see a dog coming around the corner at full speed. Somebody released their dog on a little kid and an old man. It's pretty messed up. They could have just opened the door and said not interested. And here's a little pro tip for you when dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses. If you tell them you want to be put on the do not call list, they won't come back for like 10 years. So Jehovah's Witnesses most definitely do face serious persecution when going door to door. For no reason. And you know what that does? It locks them into their beliefs even deeper. The more hate they experience from the outside world, the more convinced they become that the outside world is evil and out to get them. And the deeper the sunk cost fallacy sets in. They've already invested so much into the religion, including pain and suffering now. When they genuinely feel like they've been mistreated and rejected by the outside world, they feel like their life would be a big waste if they found out none of it was true. So they stay and waste more of it. It's the same reason why people continue to play the lottery, even after burning through thousands of dollars with nothing to show for it. The point is, don't be rude to Jehovah's Witnesses. You're only making it harder to help them find their way out. Let's keep watching.
Sister Spencer said that experience stayed with her. To this day, she finds it very difficult to be in the ministry.
Brothers, I feel like after all these years, if I can't get over this fear, I may not make it when times get harder.
Helping the friends address their fears, it's really going to help when our message changes from good news to judgment. So, Peter, let's hear from you next.
What's all this then? When the message changes from good news to judgment? That's interesting. What are they talking about, I hear you saying? They have this weird, winding belief about the end and when it's coming. Most Christians think when Jesus comes back, the good Christians will be raptured to heaven and everybody else will have to try to make it through the war between Jesus and Satan, or some variation of that. Jehovah's Witnesses think Jesus already came back. The founder, Charles Taze Russell, made a failed end times prediction in 1914. When nothing happened, he claimed Jesus really did come back, only he was invisible. That meant we were in the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
That we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days. In the final part of the final part of the last days.
So they think whenever the last day of the last day comes, the door to join the religion will basically be closed, but they'll still be expected to spread the word anyways. Only they won't be knocking on doors trying to convert people anymore. People won't be allowed to join. They'll just be telling people they're f***ed. That's it. They lost their chance to join, and now they're gonna die. That's what they mean when they say the message will turn from one of good news to judgment. Absolutely nuts. Before we continue, I wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check me out on Teespring. I sell all kinds of shirts and mugs and stuff on there. Or you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have my Fireside Chat channel, where I talk about the intersection between religion and politics. I have my Telltale Unfiltered channel, where I watch sermons and do long-form breakdowns of people like Jehovah's Witnesses, Kenneth Copeland, and others. Or you can check out my Telltale Reads channel, where I read books by extremists. We just got through reading Greg Locke's book, This Means War, We Will Not Surrender Through Silence. Now we're reading a book called Donald Trump, the Messiah, the Christ. Dude believes Trump is literally the second coming of Jesus. His reasoning gets absolutely wild. On top of that, every video stands independent of the rest. You can jump in at any point and listen to what he had to say. And I'll add extra context from previous chapters if it's necessary. Anyways, check it out if it sounds interesting. All links are in the description. So Jehovah's Witnesses have come up with solutions for situations like this woman is experiencing, where she basically seems to have PTSD from her experience at the door. I'm not making fun. This is a real thing. Like I said, my brother had a gun pulled on him when he was a door-knocking Jehovah's Witness. People get really aggressive with this stuff. So when you're incapable of knocking on doors anymore, whether it be the result of PTSD or disability of some sort, you're expected to take part in letter writing campaigns. People will grab a phone book, yes, those still exist, they'll open it to a random spot, pick out an address, and start mailing proselytizing letters to the people they find. That way they can utilize free labor from people even after they're too old to walk from door to door anymore. Genius. They really got this taking advantage of people's free labor thing down to a science. Anyways, there's one more clip in this little compilation they released. Let me give some context for it. A couple years ago, they faced a flurry of lawsuits against them for mishandling child mistreatment cases, or CSA. They came up with what they called their master plan to generate a bunch of money really quickly. They start out by having every single congregation in the world deed the property over to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the religion's parent organization. Then they merged a bunch of congregations together, having some of them build new kingdom halls, aka church buildings. They calculated how many people could possibly fit in a single building, and they overbooked them, the same way airlines do it. Basically, they know 95% of the congregation membership will show up to every meeting. So if they know the building will hold 100 people, they assign 105 to the Kingdom Hall, which means it should be full every single meeting. It's a little more complicated than that because it had to account for new recruits and stuff like that, but that's the basic idea. They also staggered meetings. So when I was little, I had a meeting on Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday. Now they've combined the Wednesday and Monday meetings together, so people only go on Sundays and Wednesdays. And they get a second congregation to hold meetings on, say, Saturdays and Thursdays. And even a third congregation to hold meetings in the same building on Mondays and Fridays. Now here's where it becomes relevant that they had the congregations deed the properties over to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. They took all the extra properties and buildings they weren't using anymore and sold them off. In some cases, they even had the members go through what they call quick builds. I participated in some when I was little. They get 100 congregation members together on a Friday, bring materials, hard hats, hammers, nails, and they construct an entire kingdom hall in a single weekend. They move into the new building and sell off the old ones. They did the same thing with their headquarters. They built brand new headquarters recently and sold their Brooklyn, New York property for somewhere around $1.3 billion to a hotel chain, according to some estimates. So anyways, the video came out around the time this was all going on. Now that you have that context in mind, give this clip a watch.
So, Peter, let's hear from you next.
Well, when we informed everyone that the publishers were going to be redistributed to the North or South congregation, let's just say some struggled with the idea.
Did you see? They have us going to the South congregation, and everybody else from our group is going to North.
Yeah, I saw that. My aunt and cousins will be going there too.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. They should keep you together. Well, at least the brothers said that the list was just a recommendation.
Well, they didn't say it exactly like that. They said if we had extenuating circumstances.
So you don't have to go if you don't want to go.
Remember, this is propaganda produced to control their population. They're framing it like it's a couple of sisters casually discussing something over which one seems to be pretty stressed, but this is really no different than the governing body members themselves getting in your face and laying it out directly for you. This is a message they want their members to get clearly. It's not too bad yet. Keep listening.
They said if we had extenuating circumstances.
So you don't have to go if you don't want to go.
But Kim, if everyone did that, don't you think...
Hi, Sister Taylor.
Oh, hello, girls.
I saw your name on the list for the South congregation, but your grandkids and their families, they're going to North. So what are you going to do?
What do you mean?
Well, are you going to North or are you going to South?
Now, sweetie, didn't you say you saw my name listed under the South congregation?
Yeah, but...
So, I'll be going to the South congregation.
Well, that's pretty on the nose. No room for dissent. If we told you to do something, do it. Again, they framed this up with a pushy old lady to deliver the message. Somebody who you imagine probably has a little bit of a loud mouth in person, but you overlook it because she's been in the religion for like 50 years and she's friends with everybody in the congregation. But this isn't coming from a pushy old lady. It's coming from the governing body members. It doesn't get much clearer than this. The governing body was telling the members to respect what they told them to do, period. There's a deeper meaning to this too. We'll get to that in a second. Keep watching.
Don't you think it would make more sense if you were in the same congregation as your grandkids and their families?
Does it make more sense? Well, that's a whole different question. The brothers outlined an arrangement. They said they hoped we could support that arrangement, unless we had extenuating circumstances, and I don't have any right now. So, for me, it's simple. Whether I know all of the reasons or not, I'm going to support that arrangement. Oh, look, girls, I've got to go. Oh, and by the way, I hope to see you both in the South congregation.
Peter, you got a second?
You can clearly see an elder in the background nodding approvingly at how brutal and pushy this old woman is being. As I said, this is propaganda, and as such, usually has a main message and a subtle message they're trying to communicate. Here's the main message. Don't question our decision. Just fucking do it. I don't care what kind of emotional investment you have in this other congregation. We told you to do something, and we're the final authority. If you don't respect our decision-making process, then you don't respect Jehovah, and we might have to reevaluate your future with this religion. To the outsider, that might not seem like a big deal. Awesome, they get to leave the religion. Their lives will be way better for it. But leaving the religion isn't that simple. If somebody walks away from the religion, or even if they're kicked out, their friends and family are instructed to not speak to them ever again for the rest of their lives, under any circumstances. And if they do, they'll lose their friends and family too. Excommunication like this was famously used by the Catholic Church long and long ago to maintain control over people. If you don't have the right to use force to get your way with a population of people, if you aren't legally allowed to imprison them, you always have the ability to imprison them emotionally. The Catholic Church used to control entire towns. If somebody broke a rule, they'd be excommunicated and nobody in the town would speak to them. Couldn't go to the market to buy food, couldn't rent a place to live, couldn't buy anything. The expectation and hope was that you just wander into the woods and die. That is the tactic Jehovah's Witnesses use to control their members. They might not control entire towns right now, but they most certainly control your mom and dad, and brothers and sisters, and in some cases, aunts and uncles, and cousins and grandparents. Suddenly, the phrase, "if you don't do what we say, we'll have to reevaluate your position in this religion," becomes a lot scarier. I personally lost everything about 15 years ago. I haven't had a relationship with my mom since. It's a destructive cult. Always has been, always will be. Anyways, the obvious, overt message to this clip was, follow our instructions or lose everything. The subtle, secondary message was, your family isn't as important as us. And trust me, they most definitely did split up families during their execution of the master plan. People weren't happy about it, but it taught them to be complacent and allow the religion to control every aspect of their lives. Now they no longer rely on family as much as they used to. They learn to rely on the elders in the congregation. It makes it a lot easier to pull the rug out from under people when their friends and family are completely controlled by the religion. This organization is deeply depraved and have been learning to control people for centuries now. It's fascinating to get a glimpse into how they build propaganda, but it seems particularly important to understand how and why they do what they do. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. All links are in the description as always. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.